My brother-in-law moved into our guest room just until he got a job. 2 months later, he had a new gaming setup, expensive clothes, and was ordering Doordash every day on my husband's card. When I brought it up, he said, "Relax. I'm keeping the economy moving." So I cut off the Wi-Fi, locked the room, and put the house on Airbnb. He was gone in 2 hours. I didn't want to write this at first. I was afraid I'd come off as mean or cold-hearted. But after everything that happened, and seeing how many people out there deal with freeloading family, I think it's time I share. I live just outside Lexington, Kentucky with my husband, Dave. We've been together 6 years, married for 5. We both work full-time. I handle scheduling and insurance at a local hospital group, and Dave works from home doing project management for a company based out of Cincinnati. We don't live fancy, but we're stable. We worked hard for that. 2 years ago, we bought a modest 3-bedroom ranch home. One room was our bedroom, the second was Dave's home office, and the third, well, we turned it into a little guest space. Had a full-size bed, a small desk, and a smart TV we got on sale. We didn't expect to have anyone staying with us long-term. It was just for family visits or the occasional friend passing through. So when Dave's younger brother, Jeremy, called and asked if he could stay, just for a few weeks, I felt uneasy right away. Jeremy's 28. He's never held a full-time job longer than 6 months. He floats from hobby to hobby like he's allergic to structure. First, he was going to be a pro skateboarder, then a DJ. Then he went through a phase where he only wore vintage suits and called himself an investor. Lately, he's convinced he's going to make it big on Twitch. When he called, he said he and his girlfriend broke up and he had nowhere to go. His lease was up, he had no money saved, and he just needed a couch for a few weeks tops until he found work. I didn't want to say yes. I knew how this would go. But Dave's always been the one to give second chances. He said Jeremy just needed help getting back on track. So we let him move in. No rent, no bills, just a few expectations. Help out with chores, don't trash the place, and actually look for a job. He moved in with just a few duffel bags, an old laptop, and a crate of tangled wires and controllers. I gave him some space. Figured he'd need a few days to regroup. But a week in and he hadn't lifted a finger around the house. No dishes, no laundry, nothing. He'd roll out of bed around noon, grab something from the fridge, then vanish back into the guest room until 3 a.m. The TV would glow under the crack in the door and I could hear him yelling into a headset all night. Still, I held my tongue. Maybe he was job hunting online. Maybe this was just a transition period. Then came the food deliveries. Every day, without fail, Jeremy ordered delivery. Doordash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, it didn't matter. Sometimes twice a day. I saw fast food bags piling up in the kitchen trash, and I knew he wasn't paying for any of it himself. I asked Dave if he noticed. He looked tired when I brought it up. Said Jeremy had asked to borrow his credit card for a couple weeks. Just until I get some money coming in. You gave him your card? I asked. I didn't give it to him. He just has the number saved for a few things, Dave said. It's temporary, right? A few days later, I looked at the statement. $612 in Doordash. $1,800 from Best Buy. More from Amazon, Newegg, and something called Elgato, whatever that is. I looked it up. Streaming equipment. I walked straight to the guest room and knocked. No answer. I opened the door. He was sitting at a brand new gaming desk in front of 2 giant monitors, wearing noise-canceling headphones and shouting at his screen. There was a light ring on his desk, some kind of green screen hanging off the back of a chair, and the place smelled like fast food and BO. I waited until he took a break. Jeremy, I said. What is all this? He pulled off his headphones. Streaming gear. I'm building my audience. Gotta invest in yourself, you know? I was stunned. You bought all this? With Dave's card. It's fine, he said, shrugging. I told him I'd pay him back. Chill. I'm keeping the economy moving. I think something snapped in me right then. That night, I sat Dave down and laid it all out. He's not looking for jobs. He's using you. He's buying crap we didn't approve, eating like a damn king, and turning our house into his personal Twitch studio. I want him out. Dave looked torn. I'll talk to him again, he said, but I'd already made up my mind. The next morning, I logged into our router and changed the Wi-Fi password. Not just that, I used the parental control settings to block gaming sites, streaming services, even Discord. I limited the data use on the guest room's smart TV. Then I turned off the power strip that ran his gear while he was still asleep. An hour later, I heard him stomp into the kitchen. "Is the Wi-Fi down?" "Nope," I said, sipping coffee. He blinked. "I can't connect." "Weird," I said. "Maybe your audience can help you out." He grumbled and walked back to his room. Then I went on Airbnb. I took updated photos of the house, made sure to get all the nicest angles, and posted a listing for weekend rentals. Our place got booked in 4 hours. A couple from Chicago wanted a weekend escape. They were arriving Friday night. Friday morning, I knocked on the guest room door. Jeremy opened it, half asleep and greasy-haired. "You have until 5 to move out," I said. "We rented the house." His eyes bulged. "You what?" "We listed it. Got a booking. This is our house. Not yours. Not your studio. Not your piggy bank. Pack your things. You can't just kick me out. You don't pay rent. You don't have a lease. You're a guest. And your stay is over." He tried to call Dave. Dave didn't answer. He tried to guilt me. I didn't care. At 4:30 p.m. he was gone. Jeremy was gone. But that wasn't the end. The couple checked into our house around 6 p.m. that Friday. They were polite, older, and had no idea the drama that had gone down just hours before. They loved the place. Left a 5-star review. Said it was peaceful and welcoming. If only they knew. After they left Sunday afternoon, I spent the evening putting the house back to normal. But as I walked past the guest room, something caught my eye. The desk drawer was still open. Inside were 2 opened Amazon boxes, a bunch of receipts, and a wallet. Jeremy's wallet. I thought, fine. He'll call for it. But instead, I got a text. Not from him, from his mother. My mother-in-law. "I just heard what happened with Jeremy. He's devastated. You didn't have to throw him out like that." I stared at the message. I hadn't talked to her in months, and now suddenly she was chiming in? Then came another one. "He said you stole his stuff. He left expensive equipment in that room. He's considering filing a report if it's not returned." That's when I saw red. I didn't steal anything. Everything he left was junk: plastic stands, half-used cables, empty boxes. But the accusation pissed me off. I called Dave into the room. "Your brother is threatening to call the cops." Dave looked exhausted. "I'll call him." He did. That conversation lasted maybe 5 minutes before Dave stormed out of the room. "He's accusing you of breaking his gear," Dave said. "Told Mom that you trashed the room and humiliated him." "He's lying," I said. "And he knows it." But it wasn't just talk. A day later, we got a message through Airbnb. The couple who stayed over the weekend had been contacted by Jeremy. Somehow, he found their names and reached out to them through Facebook, telling them they had stayed in a home full of stolen equipment. Now I was furious. That was my name on the Airbnb account. My reputation. He could screw with me personally all he wanted, but this could ruin my side income. I wasn't going to let that slide. So I went back to those receipts. The ones in the drawer. And I noticed something interesting. Every single piece of gear, his mic, his monitors, even the LED lights, were bought with Dave's credit card. Not Jeremy's. Meaning legally it wasn't even his property. I snapped pictures of every receipt. Took photos of all the equipment. Then I sent it all to my lawyer friend, Melissa. She owed me a favor from when I watched her cats for 2 weeks. She sent back a beautiful little message I could forward to Jeremy and his mother. All equipment in question was purchased on the homeowner's credit account, not the guest's. There is no legal basis for a claim of theft or property damage. Further harassment will be considered defamation and subject to action. I emailed it to them both. Then I printed a copy and mailed it to Jeremy's new address. He never responded. But a few days later, I got a different kind of message. This time, it was from one of Jeremy's old friends, a guy named Chris who used to come over and hang out when they were teenagers. I barely knew him, but his message was short. "Yo, you might want to check Jeremy's stream. He's talking trash about you and Dave. Calling you leeches. Says you owe him for emotional damage." That was the moment I realized this wasn't just a freeloading brother-in-law problem anymore. Jeremy was trying to ruin us. Publicly. And I was done playing nice. I sat down and watched Jeremy's stream. I hadn't done it before. Honestly, I didn't think he had an actual following. I was wrong. It wasn't huge, but there were about 60 people in his chat, laughing, sending emojis, throwing tips in the donation bar. His face was all lit up in that ring light I helped pay for, and he was talking like he was some kind of martyr. You try to lean on family and they treat you like trash. I gave them content ideas, helped set up their Wi-Fi better, showed them how to optimize their router, free consulting, and what do I get? Kicked out. Then they rent out my room like I'm disposable. His chat exploded. That's cold, man. Sue them. That's theft. Do a video. Expose them. I wanted to throw something at the screen. He was rewriting the entire story, making himself the victim. And then he said it. They better watch themselves. I've got footage. Footage? I froze. Was he serious? What footage? I grabbed my phone and texted Dave. Come home. Now. We have a problem. When he got in, I told him everything. About the stream, the comments, the footage. We searched the guest room. Nothing. Then I remembered Jeremy had ordered 2 smart home cameras off Amazon in his second week here. I thought he was using them for his stream background. But what if he had set them up in the house? We tore through the closet and found one. It was small, black, no bigger than a thumb. Tucked in behind a stack of games on the shelf. Still plugged into a wall outlet. I turned it over. There was a tiny SD card in the back. I felt sick. We found a second one hidden behind a picture frame in the hallway outside the guest room. It was pointed toward our living room. Right where Dave sometimes worked. Right where we'd had private conversations. I had no idea how long it had been recording. Dave didn't say a word. He just unplugged it and walked outside with it in his hand like it was on fire. That night, I stayed up watching what was on the SD card. Most of it was useless, Jeremy talking to himself, streaming, gaming. But then there was a clip of me yelling. The night I confronted him about the spending, I'd gotten loud. I'd cursed. I was frustrated. And he recorded the whole thing. From an angle that made it look like I was standing over him, like I was threatening him. I finally understood what he meant when he said he had footage. He wasn't just playing the victim on stream. He was building an audience off it. Using our house, our money, and now our lives. And it wasn't over. Because the next morning, I found a letter taped to our front door. It was folded in half, no envelope. Just our names written in thick Sharpie. Inside, a printed copy of a cease and desist notice. And at the bottom, Jeremy's signature. It wasn't from a lawyer. It was something he downloaded from a template site and filled out himself. But it said we were not to discuss him publicly, use his name online, or damage his brand. That's when Dave finally snapped. I'm done, he said. He wants war? Fine. Let's give him one. Dave didn't talk much for the rest of that day. He just sat at the kitchen table, staring at that fake cease and desist letter like it was a live grenade. I could tell something shifted in him. He had always been the keep the peace one. The middle brother. The fixer. But now, after watching his little brother lie, steal, and spy on us like we were enemies instead of family, something inside him broke. The next morning, he woke up early, made a pot of coffee, and pulled out his laptop. What are you doing? I asked. Filing a police report. I blinked. Are you serious? I should have done it weeks ago. He logged into his credit card account and printed every charge Jeremy had made. He added photos of the gear, copies of the receipts showing it was purchased in his name. Then he attached still shots from the camera feeds, especially the one where Jeremy had hidden it behind the picture frame. When we brought it to the police, they didn't laugh. They didn't shrug it off. The officer on duty raised an eyebrow when we showed the footage. Wait, he installed a hidden camera without your permission? 2 cameras, I said. One in his room. One facing our living room. The officer's tone changed immediately. He wrote it all down and said it qualified as invasion of privacy, possibly even a felony depending on what was recorded and how it was used. Jeremy thought he was clever. But he crossed a line he couldn't walk back from. Within a week, we got a call. The police had visited his new place in Louisville. They confiscated his PC and backup drives. And here's the best part, they found dozens of saved recordings. Some of us. Some of his ex-girlfriend. Even clips from another house he'd briefly stayed in before he came to ours. Jeremy wasn't just streaming. He was recording people without their knowledge and editing them into content for views. Turned real fast. A detective followed up. Prosecutor got involved. And just like that, Jeremy was looking at actual charges. Dave didn't gloat. He didn't post about it. He didn't even tell his parents, who were still sending passive-aggressive texts about family betrayal. He just said, he wanted to be famous. Let him be famous in court. We cut contact with his side of the family. We didn't go to the first court hearing, but we got updates through the county clerk's site. Jeremy took a plea deal. Avoided jail but had to do 300 hours of community service, pay back a chunk of the money, and stay off all live streaming platforms for a year. And yeah, his channel got permanently banned. He moved back in with his dad across the state. Last I heard, he was working at a gas station, still talking about rebuilding his brand. But no one's listening anymore. As for us, we don't have a guest room anymore. We turned it into a home gym. The Wi-Fi password gets changed monthly. No one but us knows it. And when people ask if we ever rent out our house again, I just smile and say, only to strangers. Never to family.